Hey Jordan, how are you?
I'm good. How's it going?
Doing great. Talking about Rebellion for this Sunday. Looking forward to it yourself and a mystery partner versus Fire and Flavor for the Impact Knockouts tag team titles. I know you and Jazz obviously just beat the tag team champions a week ago on the show. Before we get into anything else, what was your experience like working with Jazz up to this point?
It was an honor. I mean, she's an amazing wrestler, and she's been wrestling for so long. um, and I learned a lot from her. I learned, to slow down, and I learned definitely to hit a little bit harder. But
Mm-hmm.
she's just an amazing person and an amazing wrestler.
How did this opportunity come about? I mean, you're only 25 years old, which is crazy. So, did you grow up watching Jazz? What was your experience with that?
I didn't grow up watching jazz myself because
Mm-hmm.
I think that was a little bit before my time, a little bit before I started actually watching wrestling. But obviously, once you start wrestling, start watching wrestling, you go back and you start, studying more stuff. And that's when I discovered jazz. And I mean, ever since, like I was little and I watched her when I was younger, I would always think that, she was one of the first black women that I actually saw
Mm-hmm.
on WWE. And I thought that was so cool in and of itself. She looked incredible back then. I think she looks amazing now, but back then she was just like muscled up and she looked like she could really kick your ass. So, I mean, I just think she's an awesome person.
Yeah, no, she's great, and she can still kick ass in 2021. I mean, she retired at the last special, but she came back for that one impromptu match in Impact recently, and she won, which was cool.
Yeah, but does anybody ever really retire in wrestling? That's my fingers are crossed on that.
Exactly. I was thinking there was a chance we could still see her in the match on Sunday, but obviously not. But we'll see. We'll see what you got in store for your mystery partner, which is going to be. We're looking forward to it. But that being said, there's so much going on in Impact right now. We have the Impact Knockouts tag team titles. This has got to be like the best possible time to be bringing those tag titles back because we haven't had them for close to a decade. But this is probably the best the Impact Knockouts division has ever been.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, Impact is hopefully going to be expanding their roster even more,
Mm-hmm.
which means that they're going to have more girls. And then we're going to have more opportunities to partner up with people and try to, get the tag team titles going.
Yeah, hopefully. And so far, so good. Did you grow up watching TNA? Because again, you're only 25 years old. As you mentioned, you kind of started watching a little bit after Jazz's time. Did you watch? Did you grow up watching Impact at all?
I watched I didn't watch a lot, honestly. I watched mostly WWE.
Mm-hmm.
I would catch it every now and again. I remember being like a huge fan of the X Division. I watched a lot of the pay-per-views, to be honest,
Okay.
because my trainer, he would always have like these parties for pretty much every wrestling show, and it was WWE and TNA pay-per-views. So I'd watch a lot of the TNA pay-per-views especially.
Is there anyone from that group of competitors, whether it be a WWE or a TNA from 10, 15 years ago, that you see as someone that you kind of model your career after, someone that you look to for inspiration?
So you said WWE or TNA, right?
Yes, correct.
So Beth Phoenix was one of the first girls that I saw that I was just like that. I feel like that is an attainable body style for me. So I felt like that she was just. I've been modeling myself after her ever since. She does everything with power and with such grace and poise, and I've been in love with her all these years.
Have you had any interaction with her over the last couple of years or not yet?
Oh, you know what's so funny is a couple of years ago, I was training for a powerlifting competition, and she liked one of my tweets on
Nice.
Twitter and then followed me. And I remember just like totally geeking out. Like that was the coolest moment ever.
Have you had any, aside from that, just in person, I guess, too, have you had any, like, quote unquote, markout moments, any starstruck moments from people that you've either met backstage at Impact or elsewhere that you're still surprised that to have met or whatever, that you grew up watching, for example?
It's happened a few times. I think it's insane that I get to like work with Scott Steiner. We had like that was the coolest thing ever. It was me, Petey, and Scott Steiner. We did like a triple threat match on one of the Impact Plus specials.
Yeah.
So I thought that was just so badass. Madison Rain, I don't know if you know this or not, but I used to eFed back in the day, which is like a an online wrestling thing, like role play thing.
Yeah. I know what you're talking
Um,
about,
and my character that I used to like role play as was Madison Rain.
yeah. That's
So when I
great.
got to Impact, I was like, this is so funny and just like I never thought that this would happen. And when I showed her, she thought it was obviously like super weird
Yeah.
because she had no idea what e-fetting was.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That's funny. I mean, it's so crazy too because I'm 25 too. So is it weird to be in a spot where like you tell Madison Rain like, hey, you don't want to make them sound old like when you tell them this, but like I grew up watching you or like I used you in my e-fed. Like we're entering that phase now where people that are in the business kind of grew up watching people from 10 years ago, you know?
yeah, and I don't really think that you can avoid making them feel old. Like, I know you're trying to say it as a compliment, but every person I've ever said I watched you as a kid growing up, they were like, man, I'm only 37. And it's just funny. I remember I said that to Zach Ryder at the last, or not Zach Ryder, Matt Cardona at the last tapings, and he was like, man, I'm only like 37. And I was like, sorry, dude.
I know, it's funny. And again, 10 years ago, it feels like yesterday, but it just time flies by. It's crazy. With Impact itself, how awesome has it been to be a part of, again, the best period for women's wrestling right now? Impact is one of the best women's divisions anywhere in the world, I would say, currently. And you joined in late 2018, so you were just in there for, again, one of the best periods in Impact Knockouts division history.
Yeah, definitely. I feel extremely lucky and blessed that they, kind of chose me to be a part of it.
And you mentioned before Scott Steiner, I forgot to ask you, what was the genesis of that whole thing? Obviously, you've had these interactions with Scott for the last couple of years. You've done the character similarities, stuff like that. What was the genesis of the Scott Steiner connection?
Everything seems to like start on Twitter in my world for some reason.
Yep.
But I actually put out like it was a long time ago, maybe like 2016, 2017. I put up a poll and it was kind of a joke where I was like, what should my new moniker be? And one of the monikers on there was Thick Mama Pump. And that got like an overwhelmingly like positive response. And so I just kind of started calling myself that. And I really kind of meant it as a joke at first, but it just stuck with me all these years.
What was his reaction to that when you tell him like, hey, that they started calling me Mama, Thick Mama Pump? What did you tell him that, or like what was his reaction to it?
No, we have never addressed it directly. I don't know what he thinks about it.
It's probably just like the elephant in the room,
Honestly, I don't even think he knew who I was or remembered me the first like 5 times we interacted. I think it probably took like the 6th or 7th time, so he would finally be like, "Oh, she's gonna be sticking around for a while."
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Well, hopefully we get to see that interaction and that that alliance again on Impact TV at some point down the road. What's it been like working with no fans for the last year? I mean, obviously you're a competitor that feeds off the fans, had the popularity behind you, and we still had an audience a year ago, and now we have no fans currently. But what's that experience been like for you the last year?
There's some definite pros and cons. Like, I've gotten used to it at this point, but I feel like obviously you feed off the energy of the crowd. Everything just seems to hurt a little bit more when you're not like everything's silent. Basically, all you can hear is just like your groans after being, slammed on the ground or something. Yeah. And but there are some good things about it. Like a few times, if we need to take like a break during a really long match or something like that, we can do that. Like, so that's been pretty lucky. Obviously, at this pay-per-view coming up, it's live, so it's just like you're gonna have to go through with it no matter what happens. But on the tape shows, we're able to kind of work around a little bit.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you mentioned too, just with all the women that you want to see be brought in, hopefully the Impact women's division the Knockouts division is growing, and we already have so many great women in that division as it is right now. Is there anyone outside of Impact specifically that you would like to see join at some point that you think would be a perfect fit for that Knockouts division?
Everybody always asks me that, and I say the same thing every single time. I think LuFisto would be incredible with Impact. I mean, she's been wrestling forever, and I really think that she just kind of deserves it at this point. She's an amazing wrestler, and she's never really gotten her due, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
100%. Hopefully at some point we get to see that. I mean, if you told me a year ago that we'd be seeing Jazz in Impact, I probably wouldn't have believed you. So I think at this point, anything is possible,
Yeah. I feel like they're going to bring LuFisto in, like, whenever I leave. And I'm going to be like, wow, really? Y'all couldn't have brought her in, like, when I was there? Thanks.
Exactly. I know you get asked this in, like, every interview. Everyone's like, oh, what about a WWE or an AEW or whatever? I mean, obviously that gets annoying after a while, because why isn't it just more a matter of, like, why aren't you enjoying my work and Impact right now? You know what I mean?
No, for sure. And, like, everybody always wants to see you in a different company. It's just kind of like, can you follow me where I am right now, please?
Exactly. I mean, obviously your husband, Jordynne Gresham, currently works for Ring of Honor. there's that misconception. They're like, oh, they work for that other company, like whatever, like it can't be done. It can't be done. But to kind of steal that term, the forbidden door or whatever, it obviously can be done. Your husband works for a different company. You work in Impact. He's in Ring of Honor. What have you found are like the biggest misconceptions there from fans thinking that something like that can't be done?
It can be done. It's just there's a lot of like political stuff that goes into it, right? Like obviously you don't want to have someone from Ring of Honor come over and just like keep losing an Impact, because then there's just like there's so much drama between the companies sometimes, and everybody kind of has to be on the same page and get along. So that I think that's like everybody has like past personal relationships. It's a whole thing. So I'm not saying it could never be done, but it's difficult. That's all I'll say about it.
No, that makes sense. I mean, especially now we're seeing that currently with AEW. Obviously, we're getting Kenny Omega in the main event of this pay-per-view on Sunday. Is there anyone in AEW that you would love to mix it up with at some point?
Yeah, I would definitely love to wrestle Layla Hirsch. I feel like we have very similar styles.
That would make for an absolutely fantastic match. Hopefully at some point we get to see more interaction with the women between the two companies. Have you had any one favorite match or matches so far in Impact? Obviously you beat Ty Valkyrie a year and a half ago to become the Knockouts champion. Maybe that would probably be it. But do you have any other favorite matches you've had so far in Impact?
In recent memory, during this COVID time, I had I think I had a great match with Gianna at our Slammiversary pay-per-view last year. That was the first time I wrestled with no fans on a live pay-per-view, like, ever. So it was very nerve-wracking, but I really think that we killed it, and that's been one of my favorite matches ever at Impact ever since.
The Iron Man match has got to be high up there too, right?
Yes, of course. But that pay-per-view match, I think it was because it was live. That was just like it was so cool to come back to the locker room and basically like have my phone just almost dead because everybody's talking about it.
I was gonna say, so when you have like a tape match like that, whether it be when you won the championship or when again you have the Iron Man match, you have it whether it be a couple weeks, a month in advance, and then you get like the feedback later. Like, do you still get that satisfaction, or are you by that point, or are you already on to the next thing?
A little bit of both. I feel satisfied that, people finally watched it, but I feel like when you get the immediate feedback, it's more gratifying.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And the title win happened in front of fans, right? That was right before COVID hit.
Yeah, it was in front of fans in Mexico, but it was taped, so it wasn't shown for like a few weeks.
Okay.
So I actually couldn't even say anything online for weeks, which really sucked. I think I had posted something about it, and then I got a call and they were like, delete it. And I was like, okay, I'll delete it. Sorry. I was just excited.
You mentioned like your relationship with Twitter earlier and that just there. How hard is it to like stay silent on stuff like that weeks before it airs? Because obviously you really want to share your excitement that you just won the championship or whatever. Like, how difficult is that?
It's difficult. It's extremely difficult, but I think you almost kind of have to forget about it to not think about it. So it's like, okay, I won this title. Now let's not think about it for another 3 weeks until I can finally tweet about it. That's like my mentality towards it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. What would you say are like the biggest pros and cons of social media and wrestling today?
Oh my God, how much time do you have, dude? I think we have I think it's cool that, it's a pro and a con that wrestlers can interact with fans because they're on here sometimes just saying some crazy stuff, right?
Yep. Yeah.
But I mean, man, it really balances itself out. I think it's cool that fans get to interact with the wrestlers and wrestlers get to interact back. But at the same time, it diminishes that, what would you call it? That aura of mystery that wrestling used to have, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, totally. Especially nowadays. I mean, has your entire career happened when like social media has been prevalent? Has that been the case?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's been, that's all I've ever known, really. Like, I was never working territories, like not being able to ride with my opponent in the car and doing stuff like that.
At a point now, do you ever get to a point where like you're used to like stuff you see on social media, whether it's positive or negative or whatever? Like, do you ever truly figure out how to figure out Twitter or, whatever, Instagram or whatever, or is it a constant learning process?
I kind of know what to expect, but that doesn't mean that I'm not equally as shocked when people are still posting like the wildest stuff, because I feel like when you post something on social media, you kind of know, you have to know what kind of reaction it's going to garner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I won't even bring anything up specifically because I don't want to get in trouble, but it's just like, there's, you know, it's very difficult to navigate sometimes. And the easiest thing to do, or not the easiest, but the best thing to do 99% of the time is to stay completely silent.
Yeah.
There's some people, you know, Timothy Thatcher is obviously like an incredible wrestler, and he's one of the only people I know that has never had any social media.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? There's been no rumors about him. He just lives his life and like just lives his dream, and that's it. Like that, I wish I could be like that.
Yeah, no, it's tough because you want to like it's like the tale of two, you know, whatever. Like you want to have social media and further your brand and promote this and promote that, but then you also kind of want to live a social media free life, so it's difficult. Enough with the negative, but onto the positive though. Is there been one DM that you've ever received, whether it be from someone that you weren't expecting, a peer, friend, whatever, a celebrity that you thought was like, okay, that was really fucking cool?
I get DMs all the time, honestly, that I'm just like, oh, that's super nice of them to say.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I get them like pretty much every day. Like this is one that I just got today. It says, I did like a body positivity photo shoot recently.
Nice.
And this person said, I am positively blown away by your recent photo shoot. You radiate power. I'm in awe of you, all of you, not just as a beautiful woman, but as an athlete. I envy your work ethic, and I'm just really proud of you. So that was really nice to say.
That's cool. And that stuff never gets old too, you know?
Yeah, so, I mean, I'm obviously, like, super busy all the time, and I try to respond to some of these messages, but it's just, like, you know, I get dozens every single day, basically, so it's definitely a little bit difficult.
Yeah, no. It's, you know, it's a good problem to have. Last question for you. I guess more of a comment than a question, but I actually spoke to Daniel Bryan about a month ago, and I asked him the dream matches that he wanted to have, and he mentioned Jordynne Gresham. Now, I saw your reaction to it, and it happened on his birthday. I didn't think it would blow up the way that it did, but I wanted to get more insight on that and what your guy, or I guess specifically what Jordynne's reaction to that was.
He was, oh my God, he was so happy, and he could not stop talking about it, like, all day long. This is what he was talking about. He forwarded that article to everyone he knew, and was just, like, talking about it so much. Like, he had a smile on his face the entire day because of that. Like, no present that I gave him was better than the one you gave him, honestly. So kind of sucks for me, but thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. It's funny too because I just said like any wrestlers you want to work with, and obviously he's a WWE guy, so you don't want to be like, oh, AEW or Ring of Honor. Like he literally just went off and was like Ring of Honor, New Japan. Like when he mentioned Jordynne, I'm like, that's awesome because he's fantastic. But yeah, it's super cool, Jordynne. We got Rebellion coming up on Sunday, April 25th. Yourself and a mystery partner versus Fire and Flavor for the Knockouts tag team titles. It's going to be great. Jordynne, thanks so much for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.